The perfect smoke, gourmet pipe smoking for relaxation and reflection. Welcome to the Tainted Tavern.
Welcome to the Tainted Tavern. Come sit inside for free.
Okay, now today I'm going to be smoking and giving a quick review of a tobacco, a German tobacco, German blended tobacco, and that is HU Nashville County. This tobacco is made up of 60% burley, with the other 40% of the blend being made up of red Virginias, black Cavendishes and Perique, and I believe there is something of a licorice topping on it. And I want to talk about a book that I've read recently called The Perfect Smoke, Gourmet Pipe Smoking for Relaxation and Reflection, written by Dr. Fred Hanna. It's a rather, it's a very interesting book. Fred Hanna's background, Dr. Fred Hanna, that is, his background is in wine, and he brings the some of the wine sommeliers thinking into pipe tobacco. And there's a very, the book is made up of a series of essays that Dr. Fred Hanna published in various publications over the years, various pipe smoking publications and websites. And there's a very interesting chapter in there that was controversial at the time, and he's talking about briar. And the chapter is headed, I've got the book. Now the book is very difficult to get in print because it had such a limited print run. It can be expensive to get hold of a copy, but thankfully it's ready available digitally, and I purchased this from Amazon on my Kindle. And I just want to talk about a specific chapter here before I... so there's a chapter in here, or an essay rather, called The Myth of Brand and Maker in Pipe Smoking and Tasting. And this chapter, when it was first published, caused a lot of controversy in the pipe world, because what Dr. Fred Hanna was basically saying is he brought the concept of terroir into pipes, into particular pipes, which is not surprising given that his background was in wine. Now, terroir basically applies to wine production, and it's theory that a wine made from exactly the same grape and grown in more or less the same area can differ to do with the particular terroir, that is the environment in which it was grown, in other words the earth, the particular weather on a certain year, the rain on a certain year, can all affect how the eventual wine tastes. And Dr. Hanna brought that into pipes, and he claims that nomenclature, in other words the name, the brand of the pipe, is not as important as the briar itself, where the briar came from, how it was grown, how it was cured, how it was put together. So using that argument, a cheap 20 pound pipe, what we used to call basket pipes, can, if the briar is of sufficient quality, smoke just as well as a pipe that costs many hundreds of pounds. And I do agree with that. The chapter, as I say, stirred up a lot of controversy, even ate in some sectors, because collectors who had been collecting all these artisan pipes would suddenly didn't really appreciate being told that their artisan pipes might not necessarily smoke any better than a cheap pipe. So the myth and brand and maker in pipe smoking and tasting, and you can see that there. There's some lovely illustrations in this ebook. I'm reading this on a Kindle Colorsoft, so you're getting these images in color, and that's a benefit if you're reading this book electronically, to use a color e-reader, because you can see this pipe here is you're going to have to excuse my pronunciation here, but this pipe here is a pool-twisted plateau bottom volcano, and the grain shows up wonderfully in the illustration. But Fred writes in this, and here's his introductory comments to this article. He said, when this article first appeared in the Pipe Collector in 2001, volume 9, number 4, August, it started a firestorm of controversy and debate in the newsletter that continued for well over 3 years. Even today there are references made to this article and or the brand myth controversy. When I wrote this article, I never had the slightest idea that it would have such an impact. There was nothing in it that was meant to be dogmatic or the final word. It was a simple expression of a viewpoint. Nonetheless, people were buzzing about it at shows and online, and the article was reprinted on a number of websites. I was invited by several pipe clubs to speak on the subject and found myself engaged in brand myth discussions at pipe shows. Actually, it was a lot of fun. I had the opportunity to meet so many people, of the great people in our hobby. It's a really interesting article and it's well worth reading. Fred also stresses that although most readers got the point of the article, there were a few who did not. For example, some believed that I was discussing pipe collecting and failed to see that I was discussing the variations in smoking qualities of pipes themselves. Others seemed to think that I was criticising the idea of owning expensive pipes. This was not the case. I myself own many reasonably expensive high-grade pipes and greatly enjoy the collecting aspect of the hobby. Essentially, these folks failed to see that I was discussing the variations on taste and smoking quality of pipes themselves. Collecting is not part of the brand myth discussion. So what he's basically saying in his article is it's all very well, all very fine if you're interested in collecting high-end pipes. I call the expensive pipes. Nothing wrong with that. But sometimes if you want to achieve the perfect smoke, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to find that in an high-grade expensive pipe, which is something I have always believed myself. I think that sometimes the lowliest corncob pipe using certain tobaccos can give a smoke that is comparable, even superior sometimes to that same tobacco smoke in an high-end briar. I've been a pipe smoker myself for several decades now. And I did go through a phase where I was trying to amass as many expensive pipes as I could. But these days I find that the pipes that I go to time after time after time are basically what would be called mid-range pipes. And generally I do find that some of my estate pipes are among my best smokers. That can't be because of the name of these pipes, because I've got estate pipes from Peterson, I've got estate pipes from Savinelli now. I've also got estate pipes from Dr. Plum, Dr. Grabo, I've got K-Woodies, and some of the K-Woodies, for instance, smoke absolutely wonderful. So I think that is a lot to do with, as Dr. Fred Hanna says, the briar used. And maybe terroir as a concept does come into pipe smoking in terms of the briar. Now the tobacco I'm going to smoke today for this review, I'm going to smoke in a Big Ben pipe. This is a pipe I got brand new 10-15 years ago. Big Ben are quality pipes, so they're not among the more expensive, though they're certainly not cheap pipes. But this has been a lovely pipe over the years. It's been a really good smoker. Another thing that I took to heart over Fred's book, I'm just going to have a little sip of my whiskey here, was he talked about tobacco reviewers, and particularly tobacco reviewers on places like YouTube, which is what I am. And he said that basically he was saying that you can't really give a valid opinion on a pipe tobacco, what it tastes like if you're smoking it just that once. And I took that to heart because I've done a lot of reviews where I have simply opened the tobacco for the first time, popped it in a bowl, and smoked it that one time and given my opinion. And I thought, you know, you may have a point there. So what I've done with this review, I'm going to smoke it today, as I says, in my Big Ben pipe, but I've already smoked 2 bowls over the last couple of days of this tobacco and taken notes of what I was tasting, what I was experiencing, and I've done it in this will be the 3rd different type of pipe that I've smoked this tobacco. I smoked it initially in one of my Morgan Bones pipes. I've got 2 Morgan Bone pipes, and one of them smokes absolutely exceptionally well. They both smoke well, but one of them, perhaps it's psychological because it's the bent Morgan Bones that I own, and I do prefer a bent shaped pipe that I find smokes better. But then again, it may be something to do with the briar used on that Morgan Bones is slightly of superior quality to the briar used on the other Morgan Bones. I also then smoked another bowl of this tobacco in my Peterson Bard, which is a fantastic smoker. Peterson, of course, are not a cheap pipe, but nor are they the more expensive pipes either. They're about mid-range. I think I paid about £80, 80 odd pound, I think, for my Peterson Bard pipe, and it's a fine smoke. And now I'm going to smoke this same tobacco in this Big Ben briar pipe. So I'm just going to load up this and talk a little more. I would recommend anyone who's interested in pipe smoking to read Fred Hanna's book, particularly as it's inexpensive electronically, and if you haven't got an e-reader or a tablet, you can always simply purchase it. The easiest way, I don't want to give Amazon all the kudos because they're such a big company, but the easiest way is to get the book from Amazon as an ebook. Because that way, if you haven't got an e-reader, you can download a free Kindle app, which you can use on your computer then on your phone. And basically, it turns your phone or your computer into a Kindle while you're using the app. So it's really easy to read the book. And I would highly recommend the book. There's a very interesting chapter on nicotine in there, and the medical studies that are going on into nicotine for the way it improves brain function, and it may be able to be used in the future on Parkinson's and cognitive diseases along that line. That's one thing about electronic books. They're not as easy to flip through as a physical book. But the section that I want to draw to your attention for a moment is the essay is titled "The Benefits of Nicotine, Drug of the Devil or Gift of the Gods." And it starts off, this chapter is not about tobacco, and it is not about smoking, it is about a drug called nicotine. Almost certainly by now, anyone who lives in Euro-America has been exposed to the extremely negative messages sent by government and health organizations condemning smoking. Curiously, almost nothing is said about nicotine itself, and this seems to result in a condition whereby nicotine is doomed to guilt by association with tobacco and smoking, as complicit in causing cancer, heart disease, and an array of other maladies. According to a study that surveyed 1,139 smoking patients, approximately 70% of women and 60% of men believed that nicotine caused cancer. So it basically explains the misunderstandings of nicotine. Because nicotine is the substance, the drug in tobacco, which is addictive, and it is highly addictive. It's often seen as being the cause of so many smoking-related diseases, when it isn't. Nicotine in itself is not bad for you. Yes, it's addictive, but it's basically a mild stimulant, as much in the same way as caffeine is a stimulant. But it's interesting, and this article goes on that nicotine is being studied as a possible treatment for schizophrenia. And this section I found particularly interesting when he's talking to a professor here of brain science, and what he's told is, I then asked him why, if nicotine was so helpful a drug, especially with regard to Parkinson's, had the general public not heard more about the positive aspects of nicotine, and why it is not being prescribed as a medication. His answer opened my eyes once again to a hard reality of our society. Jim said that nicotine is not being prescribed as a medication primarily because there was no money to be made from it. He said that the way the major drug companies work is that they need to patent a drug before putting it on the market. A patent must first be established by the drug company so it can then make an exclusive profit from whatever the particular drug may be. If there is no patent, then the millions of dollars they spend on manufacturing and marketing the drug will not get them a return on their money, and they end up losing money on the entire venture. Jim said that there can be no patent on nicotine, just like there can be no patent on alcohol. No one owns these drugs, as they are readily available in nature. True, nicotine itself was not likely to be prescribed as a medication. He then went on to explain that he asked this professor to help him understand some reports that indicated there were attempts out there to produce a derivative of nicotine as a treatment for Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. But he was told that there were indeed efforts being conducted to produce such a derivative. And he asked him what if derivatives were different than nicotine himself, and he was told no. But the derivatives were specifically designed to bind to one of 9 receptors in the brain that interact with nicotine. He carefully and patiently explained to me that if a pharmaceutical company can develop a drug that binds itself to one receptor, the company can then patent the drug and make sizable profits from the sale. The receptors in the brain are called, curiously, nicotine acetylcholine receptors. But so far, he added, all attempts to develop such derivations have failed. But the research continues. So I found that interesting. Obviously there's a lot more detail there. There's a lot more in this book about the studies of nicotine and its beneficial aspects of nicotine. So it's well worth getting a copy of this book. But the bulk of the book goes on about pipes themselves and tasting and how to taste tobacco. There's one method in there that I did try of Fred Hanna's packing method, which is called the air packing method, in which the bottom of the bowl is purposely left empty to create an air pocket. I tried that several times and I really didn't like it. I felt the drawer was too loose, but each to their own. Basically how you do that is you get your tobacco and you roll it up really tight and then stuff it into the tobacco with it while avoiding pushing it down to the very bottom of the bowl. But you tamp it down quite firmly, as I say, avoiding pushing it down to the bottom of the bowl to create that air pocket. He claims that it provides much more flavour with the tobacco, and maybe I will experiment with it a bit more in the future, but at the moment I didn't find that. So I'm packing this in my, not my method, I didn't invent this method, but it's one of the common methods, and it's the 3-stage method, in which I put the first bit of tobacco into the bowl, press it down into the bottom of the bowl, tamp it down gently so that it's loose, and then I put another bit of tobacco on top of that and tamp that down a bit more firmly, and then I put the final bit of tobacco to bring the tobacco up to the top of the bowl and tap that down the firmest of all. That is the method that I've always used, and maybe I'm just being stuck in my ways and missing something by not given the method that Fred Hanna describes in the book, the air method, enough scope. Maybe there is something in there. But anyway, I'm going to get this alight now and talk about this and chat away a little bit more about the book. Yeah. As I said, so this will be the 3rd bowl that I have now smoked of this tobacco. And already I've got my initial feelings clear in my mind, so I'm going to tell you what I'm tasting in this tobacco. And going forward, I'm going to now start, when I do every review with tobacco, I'm not going to review a tobacco on one bowl alone. It's going to be several bowls, usually smoked over a couple of days before I sit down to share my review with you. And hopefully that way I can give a better indication of what taste you're getting from this tobacco. So, without further ado, let's get this tobacco lit. Now, as I say, this tobacco is made up of 60% burley tobacco. Then we've got red Virginias, we've got some black Cavendish, and we've got some Perique here. It's a German tobacco. And called Nashville County because it's done in the American style. Just tamping light there. Dr. Fred Hanna, interestingly, also goes on about the way you light your pipe, that you shouldn't scorch the tobacco too much. But again, I found that a bit strange, because basically you're setting the tobacco alight in the bowl. So, I mean, a lot of it's a very interesting book, don't get me wrong. I think it's a fantastic book. I'm very pleased that I purchased it. It's just I don't agree with everything that's said in there, though I do agree with a lot of what he says. So I think the thing is, if you're interested, buy a copy of this book. I highly recommend it, and then take your own opinions from it. That's what pipe smoking, this hobby, is basically about. But Fred Hanna's suggestions on how to enjoy tobacco, how to smoke tobacco, how to fully relax with tobacco, how to meditate with tobacco, I found very useful. And that's me, who has been a pipe smoker for, as I say, several decades, so I'm not exactly a new pipe smoker, and yet I found a lot to appreciate in this book. It's highly recommended.
As I watch the sun descending and the birds fly home to rest, in the hush when day is ending, that's the hour when I feel blessed. Smoking my pipe.
Now right away with this tobacco, I'm getting a taste now that I'm getting used to, because as I say, this is the third bowl, and it's almost like a nugget taste that you get with this tobacco, like a creamy nugget taste. Being made primarily of burley, it's nutty. And there is said to be something of a licorice topping on this, though I don't really detect that, though I think that may be evident in the room note being given off.
Smoking my pipe. Like a whisper through the cornfield comes a gentle evening breeze. At the doorway of my cottage I recall old memories.
First bowl of this.
Smoking my pipe.
I smoked out in the bothy of Broken Dreams, and it was a horrendous rain, and I did think of filming that. In fact, I did film it, and if I can save some of the footage, I may work it into this review. But the rain was hammering down on the roof of the bothy, and it's a metal roof, so I think sound quality would be really bad there. So, you know, I'll take a look at the footage and maybe work a little bit into this review, but I'm not promising the bulk of this review may be this smoke now. As I say, you get a very nuggety taste from this tobacco, creamy, sweet, nuggety taste. It does burn well as well, and stays alight, but obviously I'm talking a lot here, which is why I've had to do a couple of relights. There's something of a pepperiness that comes from Perique in this, but it's very subdued. It is, I think, a perfect tobacco to sit back with and relax with. In terms of nicotine, it's probably, rather than being overly strong, it's probably quite mild. Quite creamy as well. And using the guide from Fred Hanna book about relaxation and reflection when smoking a pipe. Well, doing a tobacco review doesn't lend very well to that, because you're away, you're concentrating on trying to pick out flavors, trying to pick out nuances of the tobacco, trying to pick out particular notes. You're focused on that rather than simply letting back, existing in a moment and allowing your mind to travel wherever you want to go, and just really appreciating the flavors filling your mouth and marveling at the way you're puffing on the bowl and you're turning that tobacco into a wispy, ethereal smoke that drifts up towards the roof. Well, yeah, you can taste the nuttiness of the burley, and perhaps a little sweetness, which is obviously provided by the Virginias, red Virginia in the case of this particular tobacco blend. It could be an all-day smoke easily. It's very unassuming. So do I think that this new way of reviewing gives me more more of an understanding of how this tobacco tastes? Well, undoubtedly yes, because obviously 3 bowls of a tobacco smoked at 3 different times, in 3 different environments, 3 different pipes, obviously gives you a better indication of what the tobacco is actually providing, because each pipe can add something or even detract something from the taste you get from the tobacco. There can be past tobaccos trapped within the cake inside the pipe, which can influence what you're tasting. So definitely having 3 bowls does give you more scope for isolating what it is that the tobacco is giving you, rather than any ghosts of previous tobacco smoked in any particular pipe. And each time I smoke this, the primero taste I'm getting is a very rich, delicious, moreish yogurt taste. Not yogurt, nugget. But I am getting some of that Perique spiciness as well. It's not bad. So anyway, I'm going to sit back now and enjoy the rest of this pipe. I've got a lot more work to do. I'm currently hard at work on my latest book, which I'm deadline's still several months off, but I can feel it breathing down my neck. Since I retired from my day job and have become a full-time writer, I'm finding my productivity has increased, but I'm spending a lot of time at my desk now, working. So, you know, I've got to find an happy medium there, because I need to produce the work that I've got to produce in the volume I've got to produce it, but also in the quality that I've got to produce it, because it's how I make my living, so I've got to do that. Which is why sitting back and enjoying a pipe and being in the moment, learning to relax, learning to reflect, is so helpful, because any problems that I've got with my book, and I have at the moment, the particular section of the book I'm working on now is giving me some problems, subconsciously I'm working that out in the back of my mind as I'm enjoying my pipe. So anyway, that's HU Nashville County tobacco, smoked in a Big Ben briar. A lovely smoke of this pipe, and The Perfect Smoke by Dr. Fred Hanna. Both are recommended, so please, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Have you got any of your own rituals and ways of enjoying pipes? Do you believe in the terroir? The concept of terroir applies to pipes, to pipe making itself? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you haven't subscribed already, then please do so. It doesn't cost you anything, and it does help this channel grow. And if you think that you have any other friends in the YouTube pipe community that may enjoy this video, then please feel free to share it. Thanks for watching. Come back soon. Yaki da. See you soon at the Tainted Tavern. Bye for now.
Come back soon.